Commander's log. There's something alive in this crypt, and it knows we're coming. So be it. Astarion, open the door. The air rolls out of the crypt like a long-held breath. Old stone, old dust, and something sharper. Metal and oil. Astarion, take it slow. We move when you're sure it's clear. Change of plan. This crypt doesn't get just one set of eyes. It gets 3. Shadowheart, take the right. I'll sweep the left. Astarion, keep to the center and watch for anything we miss. Three perspectives, 3 chances to spot what wants us dead. If this place is determined to bleed us, it's going to have to work a lot harder. Astarion, Shadowheart's found the traps, but this part is your dance. Get in there and make them behave. I've spent half my life with my nose in star charts and history tomes, naval academies, battle reports, dead empires, but this script might as well be scratches on a bulkhead.
The text on the plaque is a mystery to you.
I can't read the name on the plaque, but Shadowheart reads something else entirely. Her eyes narrow, tracing the stone, the seams, the floor. There's a mechanism built into the lid. This thing's trapped. Of course it is. Whatever's in this box was never meant to be disturbed, which usually means it's worth disturbing. Astarion, keep sweeping the room. Every corner, every step. Well, the dead aren't generous, but they're not heartless either. Astarion turns up what really matters down here. Ways to not die. 2 potions. One for you, one for Shadowheart. If either of you drops, we're done. A little insurance in glass. Not much, but better than prayers and wishful thinking. Liquid fire. And a storm and an arrow. Nice to know we've got options if things get loud. The more we look, the worse it gets. This isn't one lonely trap on a grand coffin. It's a room wired for murder. Center sarcophagus, trapped. 2 more flanking it on the right. Another on the left. 4 coffins, 4 chances to die curious. No one touches a lid. Not one finger. Astarion, I want every trap in this room disarmed before we play grave robber. I don't know if these side coffins are chained to the main one, but I'm not gambling on a cascade of blades and fire because we got greedy. Hold here. If anything snaps, you keep whoever's still breathing on their feet. We came down here for answers and whatever relics the dead forgot to take with them. But first we turn this minefield into a room again. Then we see what was worth all the trouble. The trap on this one isn't in the stone box. It's watching from above. A gargoyle with steel in its guts, waiting for someone to get clever. Turns out our nimble friend's been holding back. 4 disarm kits tucked away, and he burns the first one on a clean failure. I let him try again. If the crypt wanted us dead, it's had plenty of chances. 1 more roll of the dice. Good. Now let's see what was worth all that anxiety. For all that trouble, a serviceable battle axe and a suit of ringmail. No sacred relic, no cursed crown, just the gear of some long-dead soldier. Heavy armor. None of us are trained to wear it without turning into walking targets. It's like the crypt is offering us a shield we don't know how to fit. Well, stash it. Maybe we find someone topside who's built for this kind of weight. No sense leaving value in the dark. Not every coffin hides a legend. Sometimes it's just a reminder that even common soldiers get buried with more than we're carrying. That's when we see it. Not in the floor, not in the coffin, in the stone column beside it. A button. Small. Innocent. The kind of thing architects add when they don't trust the dead to stay put. I don't like this. I don't press things when I don't know what they do. It bothers me more than the traps. A wire, a pressure plate, you can follow those with your eyes. A button like this could open a secret door, could fill the room with fire, could do both. First things first. Astarion, focus on the sarcophagus. We disarm this trap, see what's inside, and then we decide if we're stupid enough to touch that button. One problem at a time. We'll crack the coffin, take its secrets, and the button can sit there and stare at us until we're ready to blink. Hold still, Astarion. Let me steady your hand. The mechanism sighs instead of screams. Springs relax. Hidden teeth go dull. The sarcophagus is dangerous no more. Good. Trap's ours now. Not theirs. Not gold. Not jewels. A weapon laid out like an offering. And a key. Ink-stained and secretive. Time's chewed the shine off the steel, but the heart of the spear still glows. A cold green eye that refuses to blink. A spear that never looks away. A watcher's guide, if ever there was one. Miss your mark, and it remembers for you. The second strike doesn't feel like chance. It feels guided. And beside it, a key. Metal darkened with old black ink worked into the handle. Someone wanted this one marked, but not explained. We take both. The spear goes to whoever can make best use of it. The key, we find out what door was important enough to stain it black. The dead don't need them anymore. We, on the other hand, are running short on favors. We take a moment to breathe and study the spear. The enchantment woven into it is patient. Miss your mark, and it doesn't punish you. It learns. The next strike against the same foe comes with something very close to certainty. A guiding hand pushing the point where it needs to go. Both Shadowheart and I know how to use a spear, but I'm the one anchoring the line, the bulkhead that's not supposed to move. She's the one who has to flow between prayer, shield, and steel. Take it. If your first strike goes wide, I want the second one blessed by more than luck. The Watcher's Guide belongs in the hands of someone who can stand at the edge of the fight, see where the line is about to break, and drive the spear into that exact point. The spear's obvious. Steel is honest about what it wants. The key, less so. Black ink stains blot the handle, worked in deep like someone wanted it marked, but not explained. Found in a sarcophagus, buried in a chapel the world forgot. One last problem. Waiting at the far wall. No markings, no incense, no script. Just an old door pretending it's part of the stone. We don't know if it hides a chamber or a grave big enough for all of us. Hold position. Astarion, you're up. See if this thing wants to open. No visible traps. That doesn't mean there aren't any. I let him work. Eyes on the hinges, the frame, the floor, anywhere a surprise might be waiting. Got it. Good. Form up. Shield in front. Eyes open. We stack up like it's a breach drill. Could be more crypt. Could be a cult. Could be something that finally cashes in on all those traps we just dodged. What we get instead is light. Cold air. The outside. Huh? Of all the things I expected, a shortcut back to where we started wasn't one of them. No ambush, no hidden chapel, just an exit we didn't know we had. I'll take that kind of surprise any day. For the first time in what feels like hours, we're not standing on cold stone. No traps underfoot. No gargoyles staring down at our necks. Out here, I can breathe and think. Check wounds, gear, the little numbers that decide whether we walk away from the next room or get written in as part of it. Astarion's hands are still steady. Shadowheart's faith and steel are holding. I'm tired, but not broken. None of us are. We can stop here. Call this enough. But that thing in our heads isn't taking a break. And it's not waiting for us to feel ready. We trade a few words, the kind soldiers do when they're pretending not to be afraid. No one says, "Let's quit." Not once. All right, we're not done. We go back in, finish this crypt, and keep pushing until we find a cure. Rest comes after the parasite is out. We step back into the dark by choice this time, not because it's safe, but because every delay is another inch the worm crawls toward our minds. The far side of the crypt doesn't end in another tomb. It ends in a wall of timber and memory. Ancient doors, swollen with age, scarred where something once tried to break in or out. On either side, faded banners hang limp, crests I don't recognize, their colors bled out by time and damp. We take our places at the door. Of course, the doors are locked. Places like this don't open for free. Then I see it. The mark on the mechanism, the shape of the slot. It matches the ink-stained key we pulled out of that central sarcophagus. Whoever was buried in that box wasn't just a corpse with a toy. They held the only way through. We had a choice when we first found this rune. North doors or south. We took the south, bled our way through a forgotten chapel, and dug this key out of a stranger's grave. I couldn't read their plaque. No name, no history. Just silence and a lock only they could answer. Here. Looks like our mystery corpse was the doorkeeper. Doors up. Stay tight. We don't know what we've just been invited to. The crypt opens up into something larger than graves. A wide stone floor, worn smooth by years of footsteps we'll never know. Ahead, a statue watches over the room. Half saint, half sentinel, its face lost in the glow and the moss creeping up its robes. Whatever god this place belonged to, it's been living on dust and candle smoke for a long time. To the right, the wall has given up. Stone split open to reveal rock and water beyond. A crack in the world that shouldn't be there. To the left, more shadow, more columns, and one body that didn't make it to the afterlife properly. Astarion, you scout it. Quiet. I want eyes on that statue. The corpse and that break in the wall. No heroics. Shadowheart and I hold near the pillars, using stone for cover. If something's waiting in here, I wanted to see one elf in the open, not the whole command. Shadowheart, stay close to cover. If this turns ugly, you keep us standing. I'll keep them off you. Chapels don't get sealed behind ink-marked keys and trapped coffins for nothing. Until this room proves otherwise, I'm treating every shadow like it's holding a knife. While we watch the statue, Astarion ghosts along the far wall. At the back of the chamber, he finds it. Not a rotted box, but a gilded chest, left here on purpose. Inside, no coins spilling loose, just 3 carefully tucked away scrolls. Protection from evil and good. Wards against aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, and the undead. Each one strong enough to turn those things aside until we rest. Now that is a good find. 3 chances to tell something truly wrong to stay away. Single use, concentration, priceless if we meet anything like the thing that put these parasites in our skulls. We pocket all 3. Insurance, written in ink and faith. We keep our distance, using Astarion's silhouette as our probe in the dark. Then he stops, hand hovering near the stone. Another button, same kind of neat little recess we saw back in the chapel, tucked into a column beside a door. I hate these more than traps. Traps at least tell you what they want. You step wrong, they bite. Buttons like this, they're questions carved into stone. Astarion, Don't touch it. Not yet. Just mark it. Last time, we had the luxury of walking away. This time, the button sits right beside the only way forward I can see. We might not get a choice. Sooner or later, one of us is going to have to press it, and hope the gods here remember what mercy looks like. The stone gives way to open rock. The crypt's walls torn out into a cliff of raw earth and jagged stone. One more step and we're not in a chapel anymore. We're on the edge of something else entirely. I don't like crossing thresholds with my lines scattered. Hold here. No one goes further out. Astarion, fall back to us. We move as one. The chest is as stubborn as the rest of this place. My hands weren't trained for locks like this. At least, not the delicate kind. Astarion, on me. This one's beyond my pay grade. Steel and scripture will only get you so far. For the finer work, you call in the man who makes a living out of opening what was meant to stay shut. Astarion edges out toward the break in the crypt wall. Jagged stone, shallow water catching too much light. It's the kind of ground rogues hate. Nowhere to hide. Nowhere to vanish if something looks back. He doesn't stay long. Whatever he sees out there, it's enough to send him back to us without a joke on his lips. Too exposed. If something's lurking in that water, it'll see me long before I see it. If we're doing this, we do it together. Agreed. We cross that gap as a unit, not as a shadow on his own shields up. Eyes on the water. If anything moves, we answer together. He wants backup, and he's right. Bright ground, bad angles, unknown threats in the shallows. This isn't a place for a lone thief. If something is waiting out there, it's not just going to meet Astarion, it's going to meet all of us. The crypt spits us out into a gash of daylight. Raw rock and a thin ribbon of water chewing its way along the cliff. No pillars, no statues. Just sun on stone and a current that doesn't care who fell out of the sky. The shoreline is a mess of loose rock and wet sand, the kind of ground that twists ankles and swallows boots. The path ahead glows that sickly warning color in my mind's eye. Not impassable, just slow and dangerous. If something's hiding in that water, it'll see us coming long before we find our footing. Watch your step. We hug the rocks and don't trust the water. We keep to the rock face, one careful step at a time, until the stone finally gives us something that isn't loose gravel or bad footing. A lever, bolted straight into the cliff, and above it, a ladder waiting to be useful again. If this place has a way up, this is it. Lever here, ladder above. My guess, we pull, it drops. Worst case, it does something else first. We've seen what buttons and hidden mechanisms mean in this rune. Sometimes they open doors. Sometimes they try to kill you for asking. Still, if we want higher ground, there's only one way to get it. All right. Shields ready. Eyes up. On 3, we find out if this is a ladder or a lesson. The lever fights for a heartbeat, then gives. Iron shrieks against stone and the ladder drops out of the rock like the spine of some dead beast. We climb, half expecting blades or bolts at the top, and instead, daylight and dust. The hatch Astarion found earlier, the mystery door to nowhere. Turns out it's been sitting on top of our escape route the whole time. Well, another way out. Good to know. But we're not done yet. Nobody's ready to quit, not with parasites in our skulls and answers still buried in the dark. So we take the fresh air for a few seconds, mark this exit in our minds, and then drop straight back into the crypt, where the real work's waiting. The water looks shallow enough until we try to plot a path through it. The line in my mind's eye bends toward the current, then just dies. Negative. We're not getting any further that way. Footing just drops out. Whatever's beyond this channel, it's not meant for us to reach from here. We'll have to find another way around, or accept that this is where the cliff says no. With the cliffs and ladders mapped, we circle back to the heart of the crypt, the statue and the 2 dark mouths flanking it. I send Astarion to the right-hand alcove. The moment his torch hits the back wall, it's obvious. This isn't just masonry. It looks like a doorway that changed its mind halfway through being built. Is that an arch? Clean lines? Stone set just a little too carefully. It has all the posture of a secret passage, and none of the courtesy. Yeah, but I've checked every brick. I can't reach. Commander, if there's a way through here, it's hiding better than I can. Understood. Mark it in your memory. If this place has a hidden way, it might link back here from the other side. Not every mystery cracks the first time you lean on it. For now, the stone keeps its secrets, and we move on to the opposite side, hoping it's a little less stubborn. The left alcove is a mirror of the right. Same stone arch, same false door posture, with one important difference. A button. The same neat little recess Astarion spotted earlier near the gilded chest. Another question carved into stone, just waiting for someone to be foolish enough to press it. Mark it, but don't touch it. We still don't know what the first button in this place does. This crypt is wired with more secrets than traps, and I'm not keen on pulling every thread at once. We've still got that door along the western wall to clear. For now, this button waits. When we come back to it, I want to know exactly what we're letting loose. 2 alcoves, 2 fake doors, and now 2 buttons we don't understand. This place is giving us more questions than answers. Pressing one mystery when we still haven't checked the obvious door on the west wall. That's how squads vanish into reports that end with cause unknown. If this crypt wants us dead, it can wait its turn. We'll handle the rooms with hinges and handles, and save the buttons for when we're out of other choices. Astarion cracks the west door just enough to steal a look. No chanting, no steel, no shuffle of feet. Just a low haze of dust and old air rolling out to meet us. The room beyond looks quiet, but so did every other one, right up until it wasn't. Nothing obvious. We go in slow, same order as before. Just inside, to the left, a stone sarcophagus waits against the wall, and beside it, a heavy chest squatting on the floorboards like it's been daring looters for a century. Oh, that's just begging to be read, says Astarion. The room isn't just coffins and crates. Someone left a book here, bound in leather, wrapped in chains, like knowledge that had to be nailed down to stay put. Of course, he likes the one thing in the room that looks like it might bite back. Traps first, curiosity second. If that book's dangerous, I'd rather find out after we've checked the floor for surprises. Chained books, heavy chests, silent coffins. This whole room feels like it was designed to test which temptation you reach for first. The lock on this one isn't playing games. Good quality. Well kept. The kind of mechanism you use when you actually care who gets inside. Astarion sizes it up. Thieves' tools, ready. Fingers, steady. Dexterity like a surgeon. Sleight of hand sharpened by a lifetime of bad decisions. He's got a solid edge, but not a guarantee. DC 15. Your hands are giving you 7 of that. Not bad, but we can do better. Hold still. Let me tilt the odds. The tools bite, the tension slips, and the lock exhales. For a difficult chest, it opens with a very satisfying surrender. And there they are. 2 more scrolls of protection from evil and good. First, the 3 hidden in a gilded chest. Now these 2 buried beside a coffin. Whoever prepared this crypt wasn't afraid of bandits. They were afraid of monsters that think like the tadpoles sitting behind my eye. Tucked against the back wall, half buried in dust and cobwebs, sits the prize Astarion had his eye on. A heavy tome bound in old leather and fresher chains. The Book of Dead Gods. He goes at it the way he does every lock. Confident. Careful. Maybe a little too eager.
This book is far lighter than it should be with such a massive lock.
This one doesn't yield. Whatever wards were laid on it, they weren't meant to be picked by mortal fingers alone.
The tome does not take kindly to your tampering. A feeling like pins and needles lingers under your skin, pricking and prodding.
Well, seems the gods don't appreciate an audience. Step aside. This isn't just metal and tumblers. There's more written on these chains than you can see. Up close, the etchings along the links resolve into sigils I half remember from academy texts and half from nightmares. A little pressure in the right place, a whispered correction to an old ward, and the binding gives. There! The lock was never meant for thieves. It was meant for priests and scholars who knew what they were opening. For once, book learning outruns quick fingers.
As the lock opens, a loose page comes with it. Magic pulses from the parchment. What was once script is now an obliterated scrawl. You have a sense these are names, a list. But of what?
The gods may be dead, but whatever's written in here still feels very much alive.
These are the names of gods, once lost but now restored after the Second Sundering. The last 3 names in this book sit close together, but are so devastated by the scrawl as to be unreadable. Entire pantheons have dwindled and been reborn, silently recorded by this book.
For once, it isn't Astarion's hands that win the day. It's mine. Up until now, he's been the one opening every door, every chest, every coffin that thought it could keep its secrets. I've been giving the orders, sure, but it's his tools the crypt has been listening to. This time, it was different. Not nimble fingers, just old study, arcane drills, and the kind of quiet, patient wisdom they tried to pound into us back at the academy. And it worked. Opened the Book of Dead Gods. For the first time since the crash, I feel like more than a man swinging a club and pretending he still has a ship. I brought something to this crew that only I could bring. And Shadowheart, she doesn't say anything, but I catch the way she looks at me. Less suspicion, more appraisal, approval, even. At the far side of the room, the floor just stops. Stone shears off into open air and a black pool far below. No bridge, no ledge, just a sheer drop in water that looks deep enough to swallow anything foolish enough to test it. I can't see the bottom, but I can hear it. The echo of stone hitting water, and something else moving down there a moment later. Whatever lives in that chasm, it isn't on our side. The last thing this room gives us isn't steel or scrolls. It's a coin, not the kind you spend in a market. Cold metal, heavy for its size, and the moment I touch it, the air goes thin. Here, this suits you better than me. A small thing, a scrap of beauty in a place that's forgotten what that looks like. She takes it without argument, just a faint nod, like she's still turning over the fact I opened that damn book and I remembered her in the same day. Whispers crawl up my arm from the coin. Not words, just feeling. Rage, despair, like someone screaming behind a wall too thick to break. The inscription says these things can power infernal engines. That sounds less like money and more like fuel. This isn't a coin. It's a prison. And something inside is very, very angry. I should throw it into the chasm and never think about it again. Instead, I slip it into my pouch. If the hell's left a battery lying around, there's a reason, and I'd rather we be the ones holding it. This room's given us everything it's willing to. A cursed coin, a new trinket for Shadowheart, and a book that still feels like it's watching me. Beyond the chasm, there's nothing but a long fall and bad ideas. Time to leave it to its ghosts. Turns out caution pays better than superstition. The first scribe we searched still has a scroll tucked into his robes. The ink flaked and brittle, but the magic inside very much alive. Burning hands. A sheet of fire in a hallway like this? not subtle. But sometimes the only answer is to set the world in front of you on fire and see what's still standing. Another body, this one slumped against the west wall, gives us something less dramatic and far more interesting. A heavy key, still warm from where it's rested against old cloth all these years. No tag, no label, just weight and promise. Good thing we came back. Scroll for our troubles and a key to a door we haven't met yet. In a place like this, keys never exist in isolation. We retrace our steps to the long hall of desks and scattered parchment, the place where the scribes died at their work and never got up again. I ignored them the first time through, too busy staying alive, and too wary of corpses that might not remember they're supposed to stay still. All right, we do this carefully. Astarion, check each body for movement before you touch a pocket. Shadowheart, be ready if one of them suddenly remembers how to stand. There are 3, maybe 4 of them, robes eaten by dust, fingers still curled like they're reaching for a last line they never got to write. We move slowly, hands searching ink-stained belts and satchels, eyes fixed on their faces in case one twitches. Dead scribes, dead gods, dead doors. If there's anything left of value in this chapel, it's on these bodies, and we're past the point of being squeamish. The more ground we cover, the more this place starts to feel deliberate. A key buried in a central sarcophagus that opens the doors to a hidden chapel. Buttons tucked beside fake doors. Scrolls of protection stashed like someone was bracing for something terrible. Put it all together, and it starts to look like this. The first room in the south isn't just a tomb. It's a control room. Whatever happens down here starts up there. We've got a key that woke the north chamber. Now it's time to see what the button does. We return to the first chamber, the one that nearly turned us into red mist the last time we walked through it. Traps are disarmed, at least the ones we dared to touch. The center sarcophagus has already given up its spear and its ink-stained key. But the flanking coffins, some of those we left alone in the rush to stay breathing. Once the coffins are quiet and the dust settles, that leaves us with the last unsolved problem in this room. The button in the column. We found the key here, and it opened the way to the north chamber. It stands to reason the mechanism that shapes that chamber is rooted here as well. If the south room is the brain, that button is the decision it's been waiting for us to make. All right, this is it. We assume this button is tied to the chapel above. If something changes down here, I want us ready to move. We've cleared the traps, looted the dead, mapped every exit we could find. There's only so much more we can do without pushing the one thing this crypt has been daring us to touch since we arrived. Shields up. If this goes badly, we fall back to the northern door and out. No hesitation. Command is about calculated risks, and this one feels overdue. On my mark, we see what the dead have been hiding. The button sinks in with a soft click. I brace for grinding stone, rushing air, screaming hinges. Anything. Nothing. No shifting walls, no fresh traps singing awake. Just the same stale air and the sound of our own breathing. Hold. Listen. If this chamber changed, it did it quietly. Too quietly. This isn't a room built for subtlety. When it wants you dead, it shouts about it with blades and fire. So if the button didn't do anything here, it must have done something there. We found the key in this room, and it opened the way to the chapel below. It stands to reason the button follows the same logic. A command from the south that rewrites something in the north. Maybe even that other button by the false door in the left alcove. Nothing changed down there. That means the mechanism's somewhere else. Probably in the chapel. We fall back to the statue chamber, check the alcoves again, and keep an eye on that other button. I don't like coincidences. The crypt is talking to itself through stone and levers. We just have to keep chasing the echoes until we catch the source. Commander's log. End of the day in the crypt. We've stripped this place like a derelict hull. A spear that remembers your missed strikes. Scrolls meant to ward off things that crawl into your mind. A book of dead gods that only opens to the right kind of knowledge. And a coin that screams without sound every time I touch it. We've mapped every exit. Found ladders behind rock, doors behind graves, and scribes who died at their desks clutching keys and fire. And then there's the button. We pressed it in the southern tomb, the room of traps and sarcophagi, and nothing changed down here, which means something moved up there. If this crypt has a brain, it's in that first chamber. If it has a heart, it's still beating somewhere above the chapel of dead scribes. Tomorrow, we go back to see what answered the call. If the dead have been waiting for a signal, we may have just given it to them. Until then, we hold position, check our gear, and try not to listen too closely to the coin in my pocket. End log.